gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for January 17th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, The Last of Us Part 2 remastered reviews are out, and Billy Mitchell just won't go away. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Scott McCrae, everybody. Scott, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. We're in the January used to be quiet.
It used to be quiet. It is no longer that way at all. It is nonstop. And it's not like, oh, we're all just like hopping from one game to the next. It's like, no, there are multiple games at any one time that you could be playing for work.
Yep. Let's not talk about those because I might slip up. But
yep.
yes,
same here. 100%.
There are multiple games I am playing for work.
We did want you getting back on here though, because you can talk about Persona 3. Is it Reload or Reloaded? I never remember. Reload. Okay.
Yes.
You put up a preview. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But how you holding up otherwise? I mean, it's a lot. Excuse me, it's a lot of games. But are you getting a chance to take time for yourself at all?
Sure. Let's say yes. That's just my time to myself. This is the least work I've done all week.
Perfect.
No, I mean I've taken the week off of my 9 to 5 because I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna need that time so I don't die. So
absolutely,
hopefully we make it through the week. And then February can be quiet. I'm sure there's definitely nothing coming out in February.
No, that'll be the quiet month. Yes, yeah, that's gonna be a dead time of year. We'll be able to catch up on everything. I'll actually be able to play Golden Sun now that it's on the Switch. It'll be easy. You know what? Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with a review roundup for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. This comes from Diego Nicolas Arguello. I'm gonna try that last name one more time. Arguello. There we go. Roll my L's a little bit. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is almost upon us, bringing refinement and an array of additions to Naughty Dog's sequel. Releasing exclusively for PS5, this version tackles not only a graphical update across the board, but also expands on the original game. The standout features include accessibility settings, playable levels that were scrapped from the original release, as well as a roguelike survival mode called No Return. Diego Nicolas has done a good job here of gathering up some review snippets from sites like NME, which gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Writer Andy Brown over there says, it feels odd to be playing a remaster of just a 4-year-old game. And visually, improvements are minimal. Lighting and textures are a little softer, but it's nothing groundbreaking, though native 4K support and near instant loading screens offer more marked upgrades. Destructoid Smangaliso Similane gave it a 9 out of 10, said they also provide a peek into just how difficult to wrangle a game with a story of this magnitude is. Ultimately, I'm glad these lost levels were axed, as they would have subtracted more than they added to The Last of Us Part 2. Nonetheless, discovering just how far developers were willing to go to achieve lofty goals like making Jackson feel immersive or highlighting Ellie's trauma does trigger greater appreciation for the final product. Inverse gave it a 7 out of 10, said, while I did dedicate a handful of hours to this mode, it didn't exactly blow me away. I'm pretty sure that is for the roguelike mode. The stages started to feel samey, and upgrades are inconsequential unless you're playing at a harder difficulty. Ultimately, No Return feels like a slice of what could have been a more extensive roguelike mode, and one that could maybe keep players entertained for more than just a few play sessions. And that's from Kazuma Hashimoto. How are you feeling about this remaster right now, Scott McCrae? Especially as we just discussed, pretty busy. Gaming time is going to be at a premium still. I haven't beaten God of War Valhalla. If I'm going to go back to a Sony first-party, over-the-shoulder, sad dad game, that has a roguelike mode in it, I'm probably going to go back to Valhalla first. How do you feel?
I feel like I picked a bad day to be on this show. It's weird, right? I think on paper this sounds like a good remaster in terms of, you can pay 10 quid for it and you get all this stuff. That's not too bad.
Right.
It's just a shame it's not for, it's still The Last of Us 2 at the end of the day, like the gameplay of that game is very good.
Yes.
So, I was kind of like, oh, a roguelike mode sounds interesting, but I don't think I have it in me to play that game again. And especially if I know they did the lost levels, I know it's a separate thing. I don't know how you could make that game any longer than it already is.
Yeah.
But it does seem to have some cool things in it. It's just maybe I would have, they picked a bad time possibly to put this out.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably not a great time. And I bet this thing's going to do just fine. People are, obviously, The Last of Us has a lot of fans. I think the PlayStation audience is ready to pick up stuff like this. Even though I know they're itching for new things, they're itching for new releases, even like new sequels, whatever. And a remaster of a 4-year-old game maybe does highlight just exactly the position that some of the Sony first-party studios are in right now. But I think at the end of the day, if they get offered this for $10, they're going to pick it up. And I also wonder if there's a chance for some of the fans of the series. I'm not big in The Last of Us, but I wonder if like having some space, like having these 4 years since the game came out and giving these people a chance to assess how they feel about The Last of Us Part 2, especially now that they know what to expect. I wonder if it will like soften their position a little bit on the storytelling. Maybe not. But I think some will be like maybe more welcoming than they were originally. That said, I think I'm going to get my hands on this roguelike mode at some point. I love roguelike stuff. I'll put it in every game. If this one's not going to be a standout in that, I'm at least glad that they're trying some stuff like this. This is a really good way to keep a game going, especially something that you build a ton of assets for and a ton of locations. You can just kind of stitch those things together with these like, procedurally generated nodes or whatever, and give people a chance to experience what is actually pretty good combat in The Last of Us Part 2. And then giving players a way to build on that by having these upgrades. If it's not substantial, as Kazuma Hashimoto from Inverse says, that's a shame. But at least it's an idea. It's more than just, hey, we spruced up some graphics, now give us $10. I really like the way that this is this trend recently has taken over a lot of developers' ideas of what a good upgrade looks like. Do you think that this is going to be the kind of thing where coming out of this, players will be like, okay, Naughty Dog, you know what, you should just go make The Last of Us Part 3? Or do you think like that audience is going to be satiated for a while and maybe want something else from that studio?
I'm probably a weird person. I didn't think we needed a Last of Us 2.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agreed with that at the time.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that boat. They obviously, I don't want to get into it too much because like obviously it's like years old at this point. But I think the ending of that game maybe was pretty bad in service of leaving it open for something else to happen. So not going to be shocked. I think they probably need to do something in between, right? I mean, that would have been factions, but we've seen how that went. So like, obviously, people talk about them doing a sci-fi game, or there's meant to be something Uncharted, isn't there? Is that not? Is that them?
Probably not from Naughty
else?
Dog. Naughty Dog probably wouldn't be too involved in Uncharted going forward. It seems like.
So I feel like they need to do kind of what they did last time, where there's something in between to maybe satiate the people who like Naughty Dog games but don't like misery porn. So
right,
hopefully, but I think if they did this maybe a year from now when the TV show comes back, I think people would probably be a lot easier on it. I think people would point out less that like, oh, it's a game that's only 3 years old if we're really getting into it, because it released late.
Yeah, good point.
Didn't it? So like, I think people would be a lot easier on it if it came out when the show was coming out again. Like, because that's what happened with the last one, or the remake, which also a weird decision. But I mean, Naughty Dog, I'm just interested to see in what they have going forward, because obviously that's a studio that like very different now to what they were when they started. I mean, not counting like Way of the Warrior and all those masterpieces, but like looking at Crash Bandicoot 1 to like with The Last of Us 2, even like Jack and Daxter or something like that. It's such a vastly different studio than it is now, but I feel like I'd like to see them do something that isn't that. The same way I would like to see a lot of Sony do something that isn't that.
Yeah, of course.
Give us an Ape Escape or a Ape Escape or Vib Ribbon, Patapon. Where's all my weirdo stuff? How are we going to have PlayStation All-Stars 2 if there's no All-Stars to put in there,
Yeah, listen, I got some bad news for you about PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale 2. That one might not happen.
It's happening. It's happening.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Never give up hope. All-Stars, rise up.
I think it's, it's obvious to everyone what's happening here. Right? Sony's strategy is, what is something that would appeal to a crowd that shows up to watch an HBO show? Excuse me. What are they going to get excited about? And it's something that's going to look a lot like Prestige TV. And I think they're right to an extent. That stuff does have a global appeal and does tend to sell really well. And I think it adds to the prestige of their brand overall, which is something they seem to care about, because I think they believe that helps them sell even more PlayStations and make it the place to be for console gaming. It's just, it is a shame that they can't, like, I don't think they have to pull themselves away from it. It's just they also have other studios that could be doing other things, or other teams inside these studios that could be doing these other things. And it's like, well, no, the gravity of these bigger projects it's so strong that no, everyone gets pulled in to the orbit of these massive things, and they kind of can't spread out their wings and try other things.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing. Like I've been, maybe a bit vocal about how I wish they would stop doing it. Like, because even God of War, it's like a different game, but it's got that formula, So it's almost like a Marvel Cinematic Universe thing where, like, they got these films and where they are different, they've got a kind of a thing going there, and then you have something like Guardians of the Galaxy that comes out and it's like, oh wow, this is, and it's the same type of thing. Like, if I'm fine with them doing, a Last of Us, another sad dad game, whatever, that's fine. That's good. The stuff is good.
Yeah.
It's not bad. They're not bad games or anything like that. But I mean, like, Japan studios shut down. We'll never see another Gravity Rush. We'll never even see, like, Ratchet and Clank is the best we've got when it comes to, like, not that. And even then, that's very, like, cinematic now. It's very... And that last one was very, like, heavy on storytelling and all that. I mean, Returnal, you do. I'm not saying you don't get like a, something every.
Yeah, but I mean, they've even. I think Housemarque has even talked a little bit about, like, their next project's going to be even bigger in a lot of ways. And I read that as code for more like a PlayStation game.
Yeah. So it's not that they need to, it's not that they need to stop making Last of Us's and, stuff. And I'm not saying that Ratchet and Clank was not good, by the way. That's not what I'm getting at.
I think it was. I love that game.
I think it was a very good game. Yeah. I don't think it was better than Returnal. So, Game of the Year stuff, and everyone was like, Ratchet and Clank, I was like, what are you talking about?
No,
but
easily better.
I think these are very good games. They should still make them. They work well for them. But also, Insomniac's such a talented team, and they're going to be doing Spider-Man, Wolverine, God knows after that. And they're going to be like, that type of game, it's not.
Oh yeah.
Wolverine's not suddenly going to be like a Devil May Cry clone or something like that.
Right, and even the stuff where they were like branching out, it was like, well, we'll do multiplayer modes for all these big games. Yeah. Well, they apparently canceled the Spider-Man 2 multiplayer stuff. And that doesn't mean that they're never going to do a multiplayer thing. Maybe that's that was always going to be their generation 1 of their multiplayer. And this stuff comes from the Insomniac leak, in case people are wondering where this information is at. So it's like, okay, even that stuff kind of gets pushed. It gets kicked further down the road because they have to focus on what they know their fans really want. And again, you're right, these games often come out are very good, but it does end up feeling pretty samey at a certain point. And the good news for PlayStation is they got a lot of third-party support. A lot of third-party publishers on PlayStation putting out games that feel very different. So if you call PlayStation your home, I think that is you're going to be completely fine.
Yeah.
But just there's a part of us that's like, I remember a PlayStation that was very inventive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the run of the show here, but this could be a very good segue. But when PS4 came out, right, I did not see the point at all. I wouldn't say the PS4 got good until like 2017, and you know why that was? It was Yakuza, Persona, Nier, you know, all that other stuff, which is not Sony. It's, you know, Japanese third parties don't really work for Microsoft. The Switch is too weak. PlayStation's here, right? But now it's getting to the point where like all these things are multi-platforms. I mean, even Persona's going to be in Game Pass day one. Yakuza, the last Yakuza was in Game Pass day one. You know,
Yeah.
So even then, I think they're kind of maybe losing some of those third-party exclusives in a way. I do think they need to maybe look at Nintendo more than anything, because like I imagine like something like Mario Odyssey was probably like a third of the budget of The Last of Us 2, you know?
Easily, yes.
Not everything needs to be like big and huge and all that. Make a digital only medieval game.
Yeah.
Or an Ape Escape or Wipeout or
I mean clearly they chose a path of like Nintendo's games. We think they're important because they have these characters that we care about, and they have the Nintendo sort of, you know, lack of a better word, magic on top of them, and Nintendo sort of tells us that they're important at a certain point, and we have to either believe them or not. I mean, some people don't. I've definitely bought in. I think Sony kind of just got away from believing that the stuff they were making had like intrinsic value, and like the way that we will display the value of these games is by spending a ton of money on them and making the visuals apparent that this is something that's important, because nothing else looks this good. And I you know, there's obviously that does work. That is a viable strategy until it's not, and until it's too expensive and you kind of can't maintain it. Yeah.
You look at the PSP, like this Sony, not new Sony, kind of started like PS3 era. Uncharted 2 came, that was it, said and done, you know, and that's fine. PSP was still about. You still had Local Roco, you still had Patapon. They were still doing weird stuff with that, and it's, you know, like, is all of Japan's studio gone? It's just Team Asobi now.
Yes, that's right.
They're probably working on a VR game as well, which, like, you know, not everyone can play. You know,
yeah.
like,
yeah. At the very least, they're probably working on something that is, you know, experimental for Sony hardware in some way, because that's what they've been doing. So it's easy to make that assumption. I hope they're making a Astro game that is just for PS5 and not for PSVR 2. That would be ideal for me. But there's no reason to assume that that's what's happening. And then, yes, many people point out, like Liverpool, like that studio for PlayStation, that's done. They just don't do stuff like that anymore. And they've said it explicitly that they are going for games that have a global appeal. And the third-party games that they do partner with, like Final Fantasy, they believe Final Fantasy has a global appeal, and so they partner with that. And then, you know, even some of the other Final Fantasies, like the spin-offs and things, they don't even care about that as much. Like, no, the big numbered Final Fantasies, that's what we're talking about here. And that does, I think, gets us a situation where something like Persona 3 comes along, and that's associated to be Persona 3 Reload. We associate that with PlayStation for a very long time now, to the point where it's like even Atlas was like, no, yeah, we just put it on PlayStation. We don't know why we don't put it on Switch. And like, eventually we do hit a point where that just changes, and now it's like, oh, yeah, of course Persona 3 Reload is launching on Game Pass. They seem to have a pretty good relationship over there between Xbox and Sega, and it's not even that strange. And I don't know how much Sony cares about that. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe that's not worth the effort over there, but it seems a little strange. But yeah, let's get into it. You played some Persona 3 Reload. How did you find it, and where can people find your preview? I guess let's start there.
So I wrote it for my mirror.co.uk/gaming, because we are a newspaper after all. We have to have the thing. I'll find the link. I'll get it in the chat. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Yeah, I mean, I played Persona 3 Reload at Gamescom back in August, but that was just kind of like play some dungeon crawling and all that. Now, this was kind of my first look at the, the other stuff in Persona, you know, the like walking around the town and talking to people and spending your day studying and all that. So I've played Persona 3, but I've never played it,
Sure.
like I've played both versions, the PS2 and the that remaster from last year, and I've never beaten them because I'm like, right, we need to have a version that does all of this.
Right.
And this still isn't that. You don't have the like expansion or the female protagonist and all that. But this might be the one. I don't know. I'm excited for this one as well. Terrible timing because week after, like literally a week after Sega's other massive RPG, I don't know how anyone's gonna have the time.
I mean, listen, they're completely unrelated. How could these two people, like two entities making these games, talk to one another? I mean, sure, they're under the same company, and they should be able to tell one another when they should like put out their game relative to one another. But no, that's too much to ask for, Scott. Yeah,
even back in November, with the exact same thing with Tactica and Like a Dragon Gaiden.
Yeah.
I don't know why they keep doing this. Surely someone in Sega would be like, here, maybe, but I mean, if it got us Like a Dragon quicker, I suppose I'm not that bothered. But yeah, so it's a game that I'm very much like, I don't know how I'm going to have the time to play this, but after January and February and maybe even March is all said and done, that's going to be a good game to pick up. I think it's gorgeous. That's the main thing, I think, actually.
Right.
It's so good looking, and I don't think the trailers and all that are doing it justice. It's like it looks better than Persona 5. It's like, I think it's Unreal 4.
Yeah, Unreal Engine 4, I think, yeah.
I was shocked by how good it looked. It looks so smooth. It looks so like, it's got the stuff you like in Persona 5, like the really snappy menus and all the kind of style.
Yeah,
and
great presentation, yeah.
You press pause and the protagonist like dives into water and it's like, it's so cool and it looks gorgeous. And, I still question why they were like, let's not put everything in this. But in terms of, picking a version of Persona free to play, obviously, like I said last time with the Yakuza stuff, I don't think you can ever show off an RPG in a couple hours,
Yeah, of course not.
Maybe at the end of the game they've like changed it completely and we've got another Final Fantasy VII on our hands. But
yeah, I mean, well, let's say that you get through the end of this Persona 3 Reload and you're like, okay, that was great. But I do notice the absence of the female, having the female protagonist. That would have been great, and having the expansion stuff in here would have been great. And then they do kind of maybe what it seems like it might end up happening here, and they do Persona 3 Reload Fez or whatever a year from now. You're probably not going to replay it then. Will you feel a little bit cheated or bummed out or something like that, or is that like something that just won't happen? Am I making that up?
Good question. That's been in the back of my mind when I interviewed them, but I'm not very good at filming this kind of stuff. My audio turned out pretty poor, to be honest with you. So that hasn't been published. I'm still working out what to do with that. But I asked them. I was like, "Look, do you plan on doing anything else with Persona? If this really pops off, will you do more with Persona 3?" And they said like, obviously got the answer of like, we're not got anything to say at this time, but they didn't seem like they didn't shoot it down completely. They were like, if this goes, maybe we will see like a Persona 3 Fez or a Persona 3 Cart or something,
Sure.
But I don't know, just because it's a remake, I'm like, will they do this? Because obviously they've done it with Persona 4 and they did it with Persona 3 twice, and they did it with Persona 5. I would hope that maybe we're reaching the point, like the Capcom point where like Street Fighter 4 still did the Super Street Fighter 4 and what was the other one, Arcade Edition and all that.
Yeah, Ultra and all that stuff. Yeah,
and Street Fighter 5 was you buy the game, here's a season of characters, I'm hoping we maybe reach the point where they're like, because the answer is the easiest thing to do that with, like Persona 5 Royal, that was woven into the game. There was an entire new character,
right,
or two new characters that were like integral to Royal, but with the answer, as far as I can tell, that's just like a separate epilogue. I don't know if the other stuff they did in Fez is in this. I
Yeah.
imagine it would be, because that's easier to put in than like, because they've re-recorded all the voice lines. It's new voice actors completely. But I don't know. I hope they find this is the time where they're like, yeah, let's do this as DLC instead
Yeah.
of making replay the entire. Because I mean, I'm no better than anyone else. I played Persona 5 the second time. I bought it and I was like, there's no way I'm playing 100 hours of this RPG again. And then, oh well, did it again. So
Yeah, I mean, if they add more stuff, it probably just will be DLC this time around. I mean, even like Pokemon's shifted to that. Monster Hunter has shifted to DLC. Persona being like so committed to this idea of now we add that stuff in a new game we release later, would feel especially egregious in this case for a remake. So yeah, they probably just have some DLC, some extra content that they will gladly sell people later on, whatever that ends up looking like, whether that's the female protagonist or whatever. So okay, yeah, like, but you don't like when this game comes out right away. Are you're gonna be playing like a Dragon instead of this, and then you're gonna look for a time to play this later this year, or what?
I'm going to play Like a Dragon and then this. Yeah, I'm gonna. When I finish Like a Dragon, I will start Persona 3 Reload. So, but again, they're a week apart, so that kind of, God knows when I'll finish either of them because they're both huge. But and obviously Tekken's coming out as well, and Final Fantasy's coming out. But yeah, Persona 3's next to my list. I got a taste for it, like I'm more of a Like a Dragon fan than a Persona fan, I think. So, that's why I'm kind of going that way, but I don't want to be excited about both of them. There's I'm really excited for both of these, but also in my mind, I'm like, God, these are both 100 hours. I'm going to be playing them back to back.
It's a bit much. And with Final Fantasy coming out, I'm like, oh, I should go back and beat Remake because I was enjoying that. And I just fell off. I should beat that. I'm like, oh, there's no time. Absolutely no time for that.
The DLC I started in, I was like, nah, you're all right.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's take a quick break, everybody. We got some more news. We're going to get into it, including an update on Billy Mitchell's high scores for Donkey Kong and a lot more. We'll get into that right after this. All right, we're back. And I got a headline here. Billy Mitchell's controversial Donkey Kong high scores have been partially reinstated. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Retro video game high score chaser Billy Mitchell has had his Donkey Kong scores reinstated to an extent on the Twin Galaxies website 6 years after they were removed. Man, has it really been 6 years since all that happened? Mitchell, who has been known for his high scoring ability since the 1980s, found renewed fame when he appeared in the documentary The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, where he was portrayed as a scheming rival to the film's main focus, high score newcomer Steve Wiebe. In 2018, Mitchell's high scores were removed from Twin Galaxies, which was considered to be one of the foremost high score leaderboards online, after claims were made that his submissions were questionable. It was suggested that the evidence submitted for Mitchell's high scores showed images that could not have been generated on unmodified original Donkey Kong arcade hardware, which players must use for the category that he submitted in. Following the removal of the scores, Mitchell threatened legal action against Twin Galaxies, claiming defamation. In statements released by both parties, however, the issue has now seemingly been resolved. According to Twin Galaxies' statement, computer scientist Dr. Michael Zeta submitted a document on behalf of Mitchell, suggesting the tapes could have in fact been played on original hardware if it had been malfunctioning due to its components degrading over time. Twin Galaxies' mandate is to verify that submissions meet verification guidelines, not to investigate how they are produced, it said. This later area remains available to experts such as Dr. Zeta and other interested parties who may examine and assess these matters for their individual purposes. Twin Galaxies takes no official stance on the creation of submitted content, but can recognize and acknowledge Dr. Zeta's expert opinion. Twin Galaxies has now agreed to reinstate Mitchell's high scores, including the highest score of 1,062,800, but only in the historical database section, which lists all the scores on the site up until its acquisition in 2014, at which point new adjudication protocols were set up. As such, Mitchel's scores are still not listed on the current Twin Galaxies leaderboard for Donkey Kong. Most of this, Scott, seems like it was done to avoid a lengthy and ongoing lawsuit and court battles that Twin Galaxies probably just either couldn't afford or figured it would be like, this is not going to be worth it. So let's just try to find some solution that's amicable here so we can get Billy Mitchell to stop suing us.
You telling me that Billy Mitchell is litigious?
Yes, it turns out Billy Mitchell would probably just keep suing them. Seems to be a big fan of that. The guy's a weirdo, and should I have to say he's an alleged weirdo, an alleged dick. And I could say anything now. I'm saying a legend. And clearly this is just them trying to get rid of him and do like the sort of thing where it's like a bull is running at you. So you hold up the red flag and have it run right past you and you step to the side. That's kind of what feels like the strategy here is. Do you think this is going to satisfy Billy Mitchell? Or, I mean, it kind of sounds like he has to settle for this. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I kind of love him. He's like a terrible wrestling character. I kind of
right, a real heel, but an actual heel.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, he's one of those people that I could easily say, yeah, that should hopefully satisfy him. But until the next thing comes along, until there's like another like YouTuber to argue with or try and sue, or
he does have his own statement here. He says, I am relieved and satisfied to reach this resolution after an almost 6-year ordeal and look forward to pursuing my unfinished business elsewhere. He talks like a villain. He talks like a heel. Like he's like, I got to get on to my next beef. I got quarrels elsewhere. Look out, everybody. Oh, man, what an incredible man.
It might be us.
No, true.
Parking his name. He's gonna show up in chat. We need to get him and Tommy Tallarico in like a celebrity boxing match.
Yes, for real.
Start a heel firm or something.
I'm ashamed to admit I would pay for that pay-per-view. 100% I would pay for that. Let's see. The current high score is now 1,272,800, which was achieved by Robbie Lakeman in 2021. So
have you watched the movie recently, or the documentary? Sorry.
Yeah, the King of Kong. Yeah, I watched that like a couple years back when this was happening.
Jesus, I don't know if it's the directing at work, but it's worse than you remember. It's allegedly worse than you remember.
Yes,
not the movie. The movie's good, but certain people's dickishness is maybe allegedly worse than you remember.
Yeah, Billy Mitchell's like behavior and the way the movie presents him, at the very least, is definitely devious, but it's illustrated even better by the way that all of his henchmen around him behave, where they're like always trying to like please Billy Mitchell, and they're always looking for ways to make sure that like things bounce in his favor. And it's like, oh my God, like he's just set up this like little enclave of other weirdos around him that protect Billy Mitchell from the world. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I suppose the movie's old, the documentary's old enough that, but I guess a lot of people probably haven't seen it, and obviously a lot of people probably watched these YouTube videos about it recently. But King of Kong still holds up.
I don't know if it's still. I believe it was free on YouTube at least a while ago.
Okay.
That's it's a good watch. Yeah, we need to like Billy Mitchell like in the ring. Steve Weeby's music hits. JR goes mad. That's what we need. Cash in the Money in the Bank, all that stuff. There you go. I'm getting the wrestling quote in.
Perfect. Billy Mitchell, if one of your unfinished businesses is playing more video games, I invite you to come be a part of Blight Club. Mostly because I think it might make Mike very uncomfortable. I think Dan would ham it up with him. They'd have a great time. All right. 2K has announced a Top Spin reboot with a teaser trailer. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. 2K has officially announced that it's rebooting the Top Spin series, confirming a previous report which claimed it planned to bring back the tennis franchise. And that came from Nick over at Xbox Era. The publisher has announced Top Spin 2K25. The teaser trailer, which says the game is coming soon, was released to coincide with the start of the Australian Open this week. Game's going to be $70 because that's just how much 2K sports games cost now. That seems like a lot of money for a tennis game, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What do you think?
When the $70 game stuff started, right? The first thing I said, probably not the first thing I said, but let's exaggerate. The first thing I said, I'm like, see, even if WWE 2K20 didn't happen, they would have the cheek to charge that much for like a really bad WWE game the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, those have been good.
They're improving.
Good.
Most improved.
Yeah. I think the last two are the best it's been in years. I put a lot of time into 2K23. That's maybe tells more about me than I tell you what, I'll probably get like Dragon's Dogma. I'll probably buy that day one and be like, yeah, WWE, and play about 20 hours of that before I even touch it, because I'm like, that's how I work. Yeah, I mean, good luck to them for charging 70 quid for Top Spin. I don't think Top Spin quite has the name recognition as it once did.
Right. I remember enjoying some Top Spin games. I think I was always more of a Virtua Tennis guy, but I wonder if that turned into like eventually I'm playing on Top Spin and not even really noticing the brand anymore. Tennis games are fun. They are fun. That's a good video game sport. It really is. But I kind of like look around. I'm like, okay, well, where did they go for so long? And I suppose that's like, yeah, they're fun arcadey sports games. I don't think they support themselves with the kinds of modes you can add in to encourage a wide enough audience to pick them up at the price you need to charge to make them make sense, especially if you're doing like the 2K25, implying there's going to be a 2K26 and 27 and 28, a yearly release. And maybe they don't do that. They don't do that. They haven't done that with I think their golf game that they kind of acquired from the indie scene. They acquired that golf game. I don't think they've planned to do that every year. So maybe it's something along those lines. And if it gets updates in between, I guess that could make some sense.
I was just thinking that, like, is tennis any worse than golf, though, in terms of, like, getting people to buy a video game, I think you've got, like, obviously, football does well. Other football does well. And then, like, NBA does well. And then you kind of got, like, golf and tennis. Then you got, like, rugby and cricket and all that, like, the kind of... Those come out every once in a while. Don Bradman's cricket, all that stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I think Mario Tennis maybe killed tennis.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like you kind of can't compete with Mario Tennis.
The last few Mario Tennises have also stunk. Again, going back.
Well, the 3DS one is pretty okay, was it? Was there a 3DS one? Maybe I'm thinking of 3DS golf game.
No, the 3DS golf game was good. The 3DS tennis was okay. It wasn't as good as the golf one.
No, golf was very good. Right, that's what it was.
Wii U tennis was dog shit.
Right.
And I had like nothing to it. There were no modes. And then
Switch was kind of... I think the gameplay of Switch tennis and of... the Switch golf is not quite as good in terms of gameplay. Switch tennis gameplay was very good. Everything else around it was pretty bad and kind of ruined the experience otherwise.
Switch tennis is when the let's ship the game and finish it later started.
Yeah, right. That they invented that Nintendo strategy with that one for sure. And then they did that with all their sports games, which is just a weird thing that they've done. Okay. I'll check this out. $70 seems like a lot, but I like I said, I like tennis games. We'll see. I would prefer Virtua Tennis come back. I really like Virtua Tennis. But we do have breaking news, Scott. Yes, the Sega one. We have breaking news. This comes from a Twitter account called Las Vegas Locally, which says plans to build an Atari hotel in Las Vegas are back on track 4 years after the project was first announced, according to the Review Journal. This is a quote. We are in talks with the land partners for potential Las Vegas sites. A series of project announcements is coming in the first half of 2024. Let's fucking go. An Atari hotel is back. The dream is not dead. I think I have the hat like over in a room over there. I think maybe I'll go get it here in a second. When this first got announced, Atari's PR was like, when it gets finished, we'll bring you out there for the opening. I'm like, you bet your ass you are. I 100% want to see what the Atari Hotel is like. Scott McCrae, when I say Atari Hotel, what are you imagining that could possibly mean?
I mean, I've clicked on the link. I'm glad it's the shape you want it to be.
Right, exactly.
Like, I don't care what they do with it. Otherwise, they've done the shape, so it's fine. Whatever. Let
me see if I can bring this in for everybody.
Whatever they want, I think. Good on them,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, good on, is it Infogrames that it technically is?
I don't think it's Infogrames anymore. I think it's been sold off since then, and now it's like Atari is its own thing, but kind of owned by someone new that actually seems to care about Atari in a weird way.
Yeah. Was it not some who like turned themselves into Atari? Like someone bought the Atari license and then just renamed it. It was like a THQ Nordic situation.
That might have been Infogrames a while back, but then I think they sort of got disillusioned or whatever at some point. I can't remember the exact history of Atari at this point, but it's very convoluted, and it's definitely not like actually Atari anymore, and it hasn't been for more than a decade. But this modern Atari is, even since the pandemic, is like, okay, we are going to invest in our legacy. We're going to bring back these older Atari games, sure, but now we're doing stuff like we're buying some of these other companies that do a lot of remasters for older games that have nothing to do with Atari, and we're just going to make nostalgia sort of our business. I wonder if that's still like the play for the hotel. I think at one time it was like you go in the hotel room and there'll be some pictures of Atari bullshit on the wall and Atari branding everywhere, and that's kind of it. And I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of weird. I think there was going to be like an Atari museum in the hotel. Like, okay, yeah, sure. I hope they take it even further, and it's just like make it a gaming, like classic gaming hotel, and not just Atari. Because I don't know if Atari can hold up an entire massive hotel complex on its own. It just doesn't have the brand juice anymore, I don't think.
Does have they done like blockchain shit yet? It feels like
I think they did. Yes, I think they did do blockchain shit. Absolutely.
Atari NFTs yet? Or...
I think there was a thing where like you could buy physical sort of like medallions of the old classic games, and then those came with NFT tokens that you could then sell or something like that. I think that I can't honestly. Some of these companies have tried so many things. That's probably not exactly right, but it's something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I assume you talked about the AI stuff already on the Bombcast yesterday with Square Enix. Yeah.
Yes, the Foam Stars AI.
A matter of time until we get the first Atari AI game. Guaranteed.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, they probably have already started using like some AI upscaling for like reimagining some of these old games. I bet that's something that's happening. But yeah, I mean, like someone in the chat says, GTA Across Forza says this gives me Blade Runner vibes. Atari was a big part of Blade Runner, I guess, and that's maybe my like underlying like legit excitement probably goes back to like seeing the Atari logo in Blade Runner and being like, well, I want to live in that future. And I mean, obviously Blade Runner's not this aspirational sci-fi film, but I'm a dumbass, so I'm like, yeah, I want to live in that future. So seeing this makes me feel like, yeah, we're there. We've done it, everybody. I'll go to this. I'll stay at this hotel. I'll go over to the Sphere, have a giant eyeball look at me, and then I'll buy some noodles in the rain in the desert of Las Vegas. My imagination is not very good, everybody, but this is what gets me excited.
I don't know if I can stand by that Snatcher ripoff.
Sure, of course.
Couldn't do it. God.
It's
again, like I said, like good on them,
exactly right. And they said like during the pandemic, like they're like, nah, that's not happening anymore. And I'm like, okay, well that's cool because they sent me an Atari Hotels hat, an Atari Hotels shirt, and I think something else. I'm like, okay, cool. So I got these weird things that are one-offs, and now I'm way more excited because maybe this means I actually will get a chance to stay in that hotel. And I'm not going to that hotel unless Jeff Baccalar comes with me. Everybody, I'm going to drag him back to Las Vegas to stay in the Atari hotel.
I'll arrange the honeymoon for there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure, that'll go well.
All right, let's keep going here. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth supports Steam Deck out of the gate. This comes from Jonas Maki at Game Reactor. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth launches on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox on the 23rd of January. God, we're almost there, 6 days. Offering new adventures in a world controlled by the Yakuza. And now Ryo Gogotoku Studio has confirmed that even more players will be able to join the fun as the game is Steam Deck verified starting day one. While this isn't entirely surprising, considering that Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, ran like a charm on it and included a short Infinite Wealth demo, it is still nice to get a confirmation. I think this is maybe notable because I think we were at a point there where the Steam Deck was clearly growing, and a lot of studios are like, we are going to get to that, like probably right around launch. We're going to get there. And Sega seems to be in a place where it's like, no, we just include Steam Deck in the go right from the start. And on day one, of course, it's going to be running. It's probably going to be running fine before day one. Like, we fully embrace the Steam Deck. And it's nice to see that that shift has started to happen, and that these studios are thinking about the Steam Deck as its own platform and supporting it. And I think it's only a good thing for a franchise like a Dragon, that it continues to find new audiences in new places. This just confirms that, like, yeah, they know that they can grow, and that the Steam Deck is a place to do it. Do you have any of these handheld PCs? Is that how you would ever play any of these things? Because for me, playing playing a longer game like a Dragon or any sort of RPG, I would never be able to do it unless I had it on a handheld. Does that fit in well with the way you play these games?
Yes.
Not trying to get you in trouble or anything. I'll say, imagine in an imaginary world.
Yeah. Hypothetically, I've been using remote play a lot recently.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe not like a Dragon.
Maybe not.
Maybe not like a Dragon. That's more of a PlayStation game for me.
Sure.
But maybe something like Persona or something like that, where it's like there's not really these like big cinematics. I would do that. I like a good RPG handheld. You know what? I waited on Dragon Quest XI to come to Switch. But yeah, maybe not like a Dragon. That it would be good to have that Animal Crossing mode. On the pan, I guess.
It's neither here nor there, but that Chiaki for Deck is a really great way to stream PlayStation games. Not that you're playing any of those right now. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, it's not like, I did try a while to get it working, my Chiaki, but, totally, I've been playing the Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
There it is. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good fit for the Steam Deck. Let's let's keep going. Let's get out of this. Let's get out of this deep water here that we found ourselves in.
Move on for this.
And move on to this to the sad news, which is just on every episode of this show for the rest of history. It seems like Thunderful Group, which is a publishing company that I'm a big fan of, announces plans to lay off 20% of its staff. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Swedish video game holding company Thunderful Group has announced plans to lay off a fifth of its staff. The group, which consists of around 30 subsidiaries, including 7 development studios and 3 publishers, including Rising Star Games, released a statement today saying it was planning to restructure operations for strengthened long-term competitiveness. According to the statement, the restructuring is down to a number of over-investments made by Thunderful in the last few years. As always, it's the same story. These companies, the people in charge of these companies, made a decision to over-invest and make big bets that didn't pay off. And who pays for it? The people getting laid off. Now, I do believe that Thunderful has had some changes at the top level. I might be misremembering that, but at least there was talks of that in the last few months, maybe last few weeks. But still, like at the end of the day, the people really paying for this are the people getting laid off. 20% of your staff, a fifth of the company. That's rough stuff. And Thunderful is a creative publishing group. I'm a big fan of the Steam World stuff. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, yeah, they kept trying stuff, and not all of that is hitting the way, or it's not growing in any real way. It's probably finding the same audience over and over again. And you would imagine, like, okay, we'll build a business around that. But every single one of these companies is looking to grow, and here we are once again. Scott, do you think there's any chance we get through this rough part of the year, or is this just going to be the story throughout 2024 of a lot of these companies continuing to cut back?
So, COVID was a time, wasn't it?
Yes.
Stuff was really popping off then, and I think a lot of studios grew. I think it did very well for the games industry. And a lot of the games that, last year was only so packed because probably half of those games were meant to come out earlier before COVID happened, right? But I think in the long run, that growth that everyone had during the pandemic, only the likes of Sony, and even then they've had layoffs, but only the big people are going to be able to keep that kind of momentum in a way. And, it's kind of up to the those at the top who are
I know it's not the same thing, but I keep going on about this fucking Embracer Group stuff where like, oh, we had a deal with a certain someone.
Right.
Oh fuck, the deal didn't go through. Guess we got to sack her. Like, you know, like it's obviously it's no fault of the developers. I know that SteamWorld, the new SteamWorld, I've not played it yet, but I know people really like that. Like, but you know, some foresight maybe probably would have benefited a lot of places in terms of, and again, not foresight from like anyone but like those at the top, you know, like pushing so much and like so much like, you know, getting these expectations based on how things were when everyone was locked inside and, you know, the growth that came with that. You know, it's sad, but it seems like it was kind of bound to go to shit sooner than later.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like wonderful people at Thunderful, you know, I've
Absolutely
chatted with a few in my days, and, you know, good games. Planet Alana was very good, you know. So, like, I don't know. I don't blame them for wanting to grow, but, you know, sadly, it kind of ends up like this more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, I get like you're right. The pandemic happened, and you get more money in your pocket as these companies, and at a certain point, the way that the whole system is set up, which is why it's like, you know, a lot. It's a shame that the people at the bottom always pay for it. But at a certain point, like I'm not even that interested in always blaming the people at the top. It's a systemic issue. It's the system demands that you take that money that you've made and make bigger bets that pay off even bigger next time. You have to do that if you're in charge of one of these companies. There is very rarely are you going to exist in a financial environment where that is not just encouraged but expected, and in many countries legally obligated to your shareholders to do that. And so, yeah, you come out of the pandemic and you have that money, you got to make some big bets, and then you got to like follow up on those bets. And now the pandemic's over and not as much money is coming in, and you got to still follow up on those bets. And okay, well, we've overextended ourselves, and we're screwed. And now we got to pull this lever that drops, 20% of your staff down into a well. It is the kind of thing where it feels like there should be a better answer to it, but like asking any one company to change is just not going to work unless we could change at a systemic level. And that doesn't feel like it's even on the horizon, no matter how many times we go through this and know that change is needed to fundamentally improve people's lives.
I mean, when the likes of Epic are having to lay off, what was it? It was like a huge number. I don't have it to hand, but it was like something like, 900 odd.
Yeah, it was like close to 1,000, right? There was almost 1,000 people.
No, when even Epic Games, Mr. Fortnite itself, is struggling. What hope do a lot of places have? Hope, again, like I say this every time. Hopefully, we've gotten through the worst of it. Hopefully, we won't hear anything for another year.
Yeah,
never, hopefully.
I mean, if these companies are really going to get lean, the good news does continue to be that the jobs are still open in this industry. Talent is still in demand. I hope most of these people are able to find jobs quickly, or if they want to get out of gaming, I don't blame them. I'm sure they'll be able to take their significant skills elsewhere. All right. Last couple things here. Golden Sun, both those games are out on Nintendo Switch Online right now. And then Xbox Game Pass is stacked for the second half of January. That's from Levi Winslow. Kotaku says, we're halfway through January. Where's the time going? And Microsoft has revealed the rest of the games you could download this month with your Xbox Game Pass subscription. I'll jump down here to where they actually list this. Levi writes, for the second half of January 2024, Xbox Game Pass titles include Those Who Remain, which is available today. Turn Up Boy Robs a Bank, which is out January 18th, which I tried to bid on for my Fantasy Critic League because I think it's probably going to do okay. But apparently it's going to be out before the bid would process, so I wasn't allowed. I thought this was America, but apparently it's not allowed. F123 is out January 18th. Pal World's out January 19th. I can't wait. Go Mecha Ball is out January 25th, which friends have been recommending to me. I want to check that out. Bro Tato is out January 30th. I think that's had a mobile game for a while. And then Persona 3 Reload is out February 2nd on Game Pass. So that's a pretty decent list for the next half of the month, and I think it's going to continue through February and March. So Game Pass continues to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
It's just,
oh, go ahead, please.
sorry. Like, how? It's weird going on to this after what we just talked about. Like, how I hope how is this sustainable? I think that kind of ties into it.
Yeah, I think the point where I'm like worried about is, and this is something we talked about on my Game Master Sides podcast last night, or less than Nintendogs, excuse me, that people think games are the reason people like owning their games is because they've cost $50 to $60 their entire lives. And that means you have to view games as special if you're going to get into this hobby. And you have to view the next game as the next special thing you're going to pick up in order to justify it to yourself. And so when we talk about that Ubisoft quote, which it was a little bit twisted out of what the person was intending, but whatever, it's still the conversation of people that need to get used to not owning their games. Well, I don't know if these companies should want that. I mean, just because it's going to grow your subscription, I think you want the value for these companies in the gaming public is that we do view games as special and are willing to spend $60 to $70 on these games. Like, that's crazy. No one would do that for movies or an album. You could never charge that much except for like a special collector's edition of Taylor Swift, and that's it. And do any significant amount of money or numbers with that. But gaming got to a point where it's like, no, we've convinced you that it's worth this amount of money, and now to try to erode that to make it feel like more like mobile gaming or whatever, that's risky. And it does feel like the kind of thing where if like you're Ubisoft, why would you want that? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Like, how many people are actually going to buy Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown?
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right. And and the fact that they it's $50. And people are already like, I don't know. And it's like, man, there was a world where like we could have continued to push the boundary of, no, it actually is worth that amount of money. And it's like, instead, it's like trying to meet people where they're at. I get it. Obviously, that's beneficial in the long run. Driving down prices is a good thing for consumers. But the race to the bottom is like the secret thing behind that. And we saw what that looks like on mobile. And I just think it's probably in the end something where we want to find some balance instead of just trying to erode the perception of value. Okay. You know what? We got a poll from, let's see, last week because we did not do an episode on Monday. I'm going to get to that here in a second. But while I do that, Scott, why don't you tell people where they can find you, what you have going on, all that good stuff?
You can find me on mirror.co.uk/gaming. That's my kind of news thing. I mean, I'm not there this week, but, I'm there most of the time. Catch my latest and greatest Fortnite guides, If you want to learn how to talk to the chicken man in Fortnite, I'm your man. But, Twitter's the best place. I will post in the chat. I post all my kind of big stuff there. If you don't really fancy checking out my my Fortnite guides, in which case, how dare you? I've got some reviews coming up that the deep thinkers of you will maybe have figured out by the end of this podcast. But I'm not saying anything. But I have reviews coming up for the rest of the year. And if you ask me, I'm the best of all time. I'm the greatest. So, don't read anyone else's. Give it all to me. No, I'm kidding. Everyone's fantastic. Read all the reviews of upcoming games, especially ones that other people who are in this chat may be writing about the same games as me, because they'll be good as well. But, I'm all over the place. It's the simple answer. And you can catch me here again, hopefully, assuming I'm not getting fired after this.
No, we won't. I made you say it.
Obviously.
Yes, I made you say all that. That's not your fault. You're free.
The script is terrible.
Just to open there. Okay, there we go. All right. So Jan put this image in Slack when I was talking about layoffs, and I looked at it, and I was doing my best not to laugh because that would have been inappropriate. But I'm going to bring it up for you all right now after the poll, because let's do the poll real quick. Which game return are you most excited about? 6% said Felix the Cat. 11% said Rocket Knight. 36% said OK Boomer. And then 47% said Golden Sun. So the Golden Sun fans have outweighed the people who want to call me a boomer. I think mostly that comes down to they don't want to admit that Golden Sun is like 20 years old, almost 25 years old, right? And
everything before PS3 is like grandpa shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, this is old head. Golden Sun is an old head game as well. That's exactly what I'm getting at here. All right, and then let's see if I can bring this in real quick. Okay.
When I started as a feature writer, I had a bit of a hard time because I was like, I want to talk about PS2 games, and obviously, as an editor, you want to be like, oh, we want to talk about what's current. Talk about Elden Ring, Scott. I'm like, no, God Hand though.
All right, let's see. The cold never bothered him anyway. Okay, later today. All right, let's get that just right there. Later today, we will be doing Blight Club, and my game is done, everybody. I finished it. I am free for quite some time. I couldn't be more excited. Ride to Hell Retribution truly was a ride to hell, and I don't think I ever got any retribution, at least not personally. But I did beat the game, and I'm free. And that means up next is Dan Riker, but he hurt his fingy. So we decided, by we, I mean just being Dan, that Mike would go next, and we would do Mortal Kombat Mitchologies. Mike McQuanchi, the cold never bothered him anyway. There it is. Look at that image. If you are listening to the audio version of this, just go to giantbomb.com. Probably by the time that you are hearing this, we are almost certainly live, or it's up on the site of him playing the first episode of Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero on the PlayStation. And I am very, very excited about this. This is incredible work, Jan. Just incredible work. Oh, there, I messed up.
AI could not do that.
AI could never.
It's the same thing with these like shitty Homer Simpson clips where he's singing a song. Give me a bad impression over that any day. AI
Absolutely.
can never produce real art like that.
Right. You can feel the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that Photoshop edit right there.
Poor Mike.
He's going to paint his face for this first episode, everybody. After that,
the easiest part of playing that game.
Yeah. He's also going to wear a bald cap, which is maybe the greatest thing that's ever going to happen, is he's going to wear a bald cap over his bald head. It's going to be beautiful, everybody. He promised for every episode. You are definitely wearing the bald cap. Are you kidding me? He just said in chat he's not wearing the bald cap. Okay, then you're doing another game in a row. Because it's part of the costume. Yes, why? I'm sorry. I'm arguing with Mike now. This is good podcasting.
Bald cap up to here. I don't know if any of you've seen the Breaking Bad movie. He's got a bald cap on. It's like up to here. Get one of those. Get painted. He's
such a poor sport, everybody. He never goes along. He never just plays along. He's always got to fight back about it just because he's already bald. Doesn't think he has to wear a bald cap. All right. You know what? Let's get out of here. Scott, thank you. Let's do a new poll question.
Yeah.
Are we free of Billy Mitchell now? Yes or no? All right. You tell me. That's the new poll question. We'll discuss it on Giant Bomb's Game S Mornings tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow on Giant Bomb, yes, we'll have voicemail dump track. We're going to play Pal World's on Friday. On Thursday, I think I'm starting Tale of the Sun. That's right, the PS1 weird game that Dan says is good, that EGM gave like a 1 out of 10 or whatever. I am going to play that. Tale of the Grubb. Look out for that. That'll be happening after Game Best Morning tomorrow. All right, Scott McCrae, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Happy to be back. Happy to... I don't know. I've tried to think of something funny to say there, but I've flattened it. I'm busy. I've got a lot going on.
It's too much. It's too much is going on. Yeah, we'll also talk over the Xbox Developer Direct, but we'll discuss that tomorrow on Game S Mornings as well, because we'll kind of do a little preview of what to expect from that. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Whew.